Ladies and gents, welcome to Reaction. This is Alexander the Great Part 1 by the channel Epic Issue TV. Yes, after a long time of people telling me to do this, I decided why the hell not, let's just do it. The incredible story of Alexander the Great and his conquest of known world is brought to life with animated maps, image from Odyssey Publishing and Total War game footage. Oh, okay, this is from Total War game. In part 1, we look at the background, Persia's invasion of Greece in 4080 BC, the rise of Macedonian under King Philip, and the formation of the Hellenic League. Following Philip's assassination, his 20-year-old son Alexander inherited the kingdom and a formidable army. In 334 BC, he used his army to launch invasion of the Persian Empire, winning a crucial victory at the River Cranis. Yeah, he's gonna launch an invasion of Persian Empire, and that's just gonna go out of hand. He'll find himself after a long time near India and thinking, oh shit, we are way far off home now. We conquered way too many places. So let's watch this one. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more, I guess. And I guess you'll be supporting my channel. Check out the reaction date, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast for different playlists like History, Indian Historian, Kazakhstan Nutshell. And yeah, let's watch this one.
In 334 BC, Alexander, king of Macedonia, began one of the greatest military campaigns in history against the superpower of the age, the Persian Empire. Just 20 years old, his brilliant and fearless leadership won him battle after battle. And in an astonishing 10-year campaign that took him to the edge of the known world, he carved out one of the largest empires ever known. Few men have had such a massive impact on the course of history. To the Persians, he was Alexander the Accursed, but to the West, he was immortalized as Alexander the Great.
Yeah, he wasn't just great because how many places he conquered. He was great because after his conquering, he basically opened the door for lots of European empires to rise up. Otherwise, Persian would have dominated.
Ancient Greece. From around 500 BC, this rugged land was the scene of remarkable developments in art, philosophy, and warfare. Its two greatest city-states were Athens, a naval power where democracy, art, drama, and philosophy flourished, and Sparta, an austere, militaristic society famed for its formidable army. In 480 BC, these two city-states had joined forces to fight an invasion by the mighty Persian Empire. At the narrow pass of Thermopylae, a small Greek force led by 300 Spartans held up the enormous Persian army for 3 days, before they were finally encircled and killed. Then, in the Straits of Salamis...
Nothing is more famous than the movie 300, is it? Right? I mean, nowadays I've watched that and feel cheesy. When I was a kid, it was awesome, I don't know why. But yeah, this is one of the most famous thing about it, Thermopylae, right? Battle of 300 versus Persian Empire.
The Greek fleet defeated the Persian navy. But they couldn't prevent the Persians burning the sacred temples of the Athenian Acropolis. The next year at Plataea, the Greeks won a decisive land battle against the Persians and forced them to abandon their invasion. The next 50 years were the golden age of classical Greece. But rising tension between Athens and Sparta and their allies eventually led to war, dragging the Greek world into decades of destructive fighting. Wars between the Greek city-states continued for almost a century, leaving them exhausted and vulnerable to a new rising power to the north. For centuries, sophisticated Greeks had viewed the mountainous kingdom of Macedonia as a backwater, Hicksville, barely Greek at all. But under King Philip II,
I think we all know how Athenians seen themselves every time, right? How awesome they were. So it's not far-fetched to think they've seen Macedonia as some backwards thing.
Macedonia emerged as a formidable military force. His most famous reform? The introduction of the sarissa, an 18-foot pike, twice the length of a normal Greek spear, and wielded by trained infantry, fighting in close formation, known as a phalanx.
Man, their forearms and their arms must be really strong for them to use this kind of a long spear, because if you hit somebody with it and if you struck them, right, their body weight alone would be enough for you to, I guess, leave your spear there, because it's 18 foot long. So you need to have real strong, hands to basically, strike somebody, that took them off. Or maybe it was just a one-time thing. Once you strike somebody, you just leave your spear just right there.
In 338 BC, at the Battle of Chaeronea, Philip's army crushed the joint forces of Thebes and Athens. Through alliance and conquest, Philip had already gained control over most of his neighbours. Now, following this victory, he united all Greece in an alliance known as the Hellenic League, or League of Corinth, with Philip as hegemon, or supreme commander. Only Sparta stood aside.
Okay, why?
Philip began to plan a great campaign, a pan-Hellenic, or...
I guess it's the ego, like I'm not gonna join and lead, I guess have leader as Philip, leaders, we are Spartans, we are better than them or something like that.
all-Greek war against the Persian Empire. Their old foe was now an ailing superpower, its great riches ripe for the taking. But on the eve of launching his war, Philip was assassinated by his own bodyguard, victim of Macedonia's brutal court rivalries. He was succeeded by his 20-year-old son, Alexander.
There you go.
Brilliant, restless, tutored by the great philosopher Aristotle, and already an experienced military commander. Alexander inherited his father's grand plan to invade Persia, but first he had to secure his own position as king. At home, he had potential rivals executed, then crushed rebellions in Illyria, Thessaly, and central Greece. He made a special example of Thebes, completely destroying the ancient city and selling its people into slavery.
Whoa, that's strong.
In the spring of 334 BC, now ready to launch his war against the Persian Empire, Alexander led his army across the Hellespont into Asia Minor.
The dude was tutored by Aristotle, so of course he's brilliant, so he knew that he needs to secure his own base before doing anything in Persia. So he made sure that nobody can rival him, right? He made sure that anybody who has even a remote chance of having some kind of uprising or overthrow him, he basically killed them off. Hell, he even sacked the entire city of Thebes, which is kind of fucked up, but yeah, I guess, he had to do it before going to Persian conquest. And it's weird to think that he's gonna go into the Persian conquest from here, go all the way to India at Indus Valley, and while he's trying to return, he's gonna die in somewhere in there, I guess. So he just went into one massive campaign, which is unthinkable. Anybody who before Alexander seeing that, like how big Persian Empire is, how are we supposed to take that down? So he does that, he takes way too many places, names too many cities after him, Alexandria, and then along the way of coming back, he dies. So after creating a massive empire, he didn't rule it, because he died along the way.
It was the start of one of the greatest military campaigns in history.
Yeah. Probably the greatest, right?
Alexander's army was about 40,000 strong, drawn from all parts of Greece. The infantry were commanded by the veteran Macedonian general Parmenion. In the front rank, 9,000 Macedonian phalangites, armed with the 18-foot sarissa.
18
These
foot,
were
man.
professional soldiers, well-trained and drilled, who formed up for battle in the phalanx, 16 ranks deep. This packed formation presented a solid wall of iron spear
This
tips.
is so awesome. So these people in the front, they basically stabs their enemy, and if they fall, the people behind basically just takes their place and lowers their sarissas at that point, and they have good enough amount of soldiers and lines for that. And this is so fucking awesome because nobody, horses or anyone, doesn't matter what kind of defenses you have, you can't run into them without getting stabbed because these are 18 foot long.
And was virtually unstoppable.
Yeah. How do you do something with
It was
that?
also difficult to maneuver and highly vulnerable to attacks on its flanks or rear.
Oh yeah, that is so true.
3,000 elite infantry.
I mean, you can't move your spear that fast and try to attack and maneuver during the field. So if anybody attacks your flanks, you are done. But if you're just doing full head-on battle, right? They are untouchable basically.
Aspists, or shield bearers, armed with shorter spears, guarded its flanks. They were commanded by Parmenion's son, Nicanor. The second line of Alexander's army was made up of 7,000 Greek allies and 5,000 mercenaries, armed as hoplites. They took their name from the hoplon, their large round shield, and carried shorter 8-foot spears. A hoplite phalanx was not as effective as the Macedonian phalangites, but still well armed and heavily armoured for the time.
Yeah, and they can maneuver at least.
The Agrianes were the army's elite skirmishers, expert javelin throwers from what's now southern Bulgaria. Other skirmishers from Thrace and Illyria were armed with javelins, slings and bows.
Range attack.
The shock troops of Alexander's army were the companion cavalry, 1,800 elite horsemen, armed with spear and sword, commanded by Philotas, another son of Parmenion. Alexander led the royal squadron in person. There were also 1,800 cavalry from Thessaly, commanded by Callas, 600 from other parts of Greece, led by Erigyeus, and 900 mounted scouts from Thrace and Paeonia, under Cassander.
Damn, obviously this was long time ago, so number makes sense. But imagine, Alexander the Great probably took over most places with just 40,000 men. I mean, if you go into recent history, 40,000 is nothing, right? Obviously around that time, 40,000 was a lot, but still.
The Great Persian Empire
He's gonna start from here, start to take over this shit, gonna come down here, take over that, and then just start it all the way to Pakistan Indus River.
was divided into provinces, called satrapies. Each satrapy was ruled by a governor, or satrap. Those in Asia Minor, now threatened by Alexander's invasion, met to discuss strategy. Memnon of Rhodes, a skilled Greek general in Persian service, urged them to avoid battle with Alexander. Instead, he advised them to use a scorched earth strategy, to burn villages and crops and withdraw to the interior.
That is strong.
Alexander's army, he promised, would quickly starve. It was good advice, but the satraps were unwilling to lay waste to their own provinces without a fight. So they decided to face Alexander's army at the river Granicus.
I mean, why would they, right? Here comes some young boy named Alexander who's supposedly taking mighty Persian Empire. Look at the size of that thing, Persian Empire. Why would we do this, cowards approach and, burning our own land and run away and, make sure that Alexander starves, right? We can take him on. That's their mentality at that point.
The Persian army formed up behind the river, which was shallow but 60 feet wide with steep banks. Their front line was a wall of cavalry, about 10,000 horsemen from across the empire. Medes and Hyrcanians from modern Iran, Bactrians from Afghanistan, and Paphlagonians from Turkey's Black Sea coast. Behind, in reserve, were the infantry, several thousand Greek mercenaries, a common sight in Persian armies at this time.
Ooh, I know this one. Where have I seen this? I know this one. Persians as Greek mercenaries, and I guess Alexander's gonna see them as traitor and kill them or something like that.
And fought for Persian gold, and were armed with the round shield and short spear of hoplites. The Persians may have been unsure if they could trust these men in combat against fellow Greeks, and so placed them at the rear. Alexander, determined to attack and destroy this Persian force before it could retreat, raced to the Granicus with his best troops. On his left wing he posted Thessalian, Greek and Thracian cavalry under Parmenian's command. In the centre were the massed spears of the phalanx, its 6 divisions commanded by Perdiccas, Koinos, Amintas, Philip, Meleager and Crateros. On the right, Alexander himself with the companion cavalry under Philotas, as well as the elite Hypaspists, the Agrianes javelin throwers, and the archers. Alexander, with 13,000 infantry and 5,000 cavalry in all, was probably slightly outnumbered. But ignoring advice to wait until dawn to cross the river, he ordered an immediate assault. He sent a squadron of companion cavalry to ford the river, followed by a regiment of Hypaspists and the Paeonian light cavalry. Alexander, calling on his men to show their courage, then led his right wing across the river.
That guy was on cocaine or something. Holy shit, look at the energy. He's like, fuck that, why wait, do it now. Why would I, rise the tension and pressure by waiting? Let's go now. And he just led his mixed unit team through the river while we were just standing there. That's fucking dangerous, isn't it? People are like, oh shit, that's Alexander. What if every entire Persian army would have attacked him at that point? I mean, the guy has massive balls, right? I mean, who does that? He was a bit outnumbered with his unit. And he's the one who's leading it, and that is the first unit that he sends there with him.
As they reached the middle of the river, the Greeks came under a hail of javelins, darts and arrows from the Persian line. Those that made it to the far bank were immediately charged by the Persian cavalry.
Okay, this is way too animation than I've seen from Napoleonic series and different thing. I guess Napoleonic series is more latest than Alexander the Great series, right? So they stopped doing this kind of on-field animation, huh? Look at that.
Alexander was in the thick of the fighting. He attacked where the whole mass of their cavalry and leaders were stationed.
Why?
Around him, a desperate conflict raged.
What if he had died, man?
Horses were jammed against horses, and men against men. The Macedonians striving to drive the Persians away from the riverbank. The Persians determined to prevent them crossing, and to push them back into the river. Alexander's attack seemed reckless, but he was buying time for the rest of his army to cross the river, including
really?
the irresistible Macedonian phalanx.
I see his strategy now. obviously he's like, if you want to do anything right, do it yourself. That was his mentality. So that he wanted to make sure that his unit don't fail and create this right enough distraction that his massive Sarisa phalanx, units basically get across. So, they are basically stable. They don't, he don't have to worry about people overflanking them, since everybody's focused on Alexander right now. So when they come across, it's just one blow thing, right? They could just massacre everybody with their phalanx before they can even try to create some kind of strategy for them.
Then, suddenly, Alexander was fighting for his life, charged by 2 Persian nobles.
That's risky.
Roisaces rode up to Alexander and struck him on the head with his sword, breaking off a piece of his helmet.
Ooh.
But the helmet broke the force of the blow, and Alexander struck him down with his lance. Then, from behind, Mithridates raised his sword against the king, but Black Clitus, son of Dropidas, anticipated his blow, struck his arm, and cut it off, sword and all.
Damn.
Now the Greek army was across the river, and the Persian cavalry faced a wall of Macedonian spears. Most turned and fled.
Seriously, what do you do that with that shit? Right, with this 18-foot phalanx army, you have to create some kind of strategy, like how are we supposed to flank them now? That is your only answer. You can't hit them head on, because they are 18-foot long spears, man. You can't do nothing with that. They would literally jab you and kill you, right? So what Alexander did was brilliant, even though fucking risky, that it distracted the entire Persian army with him. And when they basically, everybody from this Sarisa army basically crossed the river, everybody was caught off guard. And that's it. What do you do apart from run away? Because if you don't do that, you're gonna get stabbed.
The speed and shock of Alexander's attack meant Persia's Greek mercenaries hadn't even had time to join the battle. Alexander, in a blood rage, or possibly regarding these Greeks as traitors, ignored their appeals for mercy. The mercenaries were surrounded on all sides and massacred. Alexander had won a great victory.
I mean, he united the entire, Hellenic, what is it called? Hellenic, what is the country's name? I know it's not Greek, because Greece is the name Romans give them. But yeah, Hellenics, whatever. He just united all of them, right, to fight against the biggest enemy to them, Persian Empire. And when your own fucking people, mercenary or not, are fighting with Persian, of course he's gonna get, of course he's gonna have blood rage with him. So I don't blame the guy at the point. How did those mercenaries thought, like, this guy created Hellenic League and united everybody, and now he's trying to take over Persia? This is not the time to fight for Persia, because if they fucking lose, we are fucked. This is not the time where you can logically say that we are just hired guns, right? We are just arms for hire type of thing. Doesn't matter where we fight. No, there are more bigger plays in the picture. Like, two big empires are now about to collide, and we belong to the other empire. We were born there. We are Greek. So if we do this, they will see us as traitors. Because it's not your average like Athens versus, Persia, or some like Sparta versus Persia, small here and there. They united everything. Apart from Sparta, they united everything. And now he's going against Persia.
Asia Minor now lay at his mercy. But the Persian Empire was still a land of immense wealth and power.
Yeah, look at the size of it.
Already, it was mobilizing its vast resources to face him. If Alexander was to conquer...
Yeah, I bet Persians thought that if Alexander's, even if he's going to win, he's going to take Asia Minor and that's it, like close to his kingdom. Why would he go all the way? They would have no idea he's literally going to walk across the entire Persian Empire and take it over.
This empire and take his place in history. He'd next have to face Darius, King of Kings himself.
Darius, yeah. Anyway, is this the same Darius?
Artwork for this video.
Is this the same Darius or the son and son of that from the, I guess, he was Darius, right, in the 300 thing, right? Battle of Thermopylae. He was Darius, right? I don't know.
Video comes from Osprey Publishing's extensive range of books on ancient history.
There you go. So I like how, you know, he created this kind of you know, total war game animations for this. It was fun. You know, I think eventually he realized that this is not as smooth as he wanted. So that's why they just decided, fuck it, we're gonna, you know, we're not gonna do this again. So that's why he didn't do something like that during the Napoleonic Wars. And I'm not gonna lie, Napoleonic Wars were just perfection from this channel, right? If he had this kind of an animation in them, I don't know how I would have felt, because you know, even though it's fine, it's fun to see this animation, it feels more clunky. And how smooth and polished Epic History TV makes this series, documentaries, it would have felt a bit too much in Napoleonic Wars, I guess. Yeah. Right, people, that was Alexander the Great Part 1 by the channel Epic History TV. If you like my reaction, if you want me to do more reactions like this from channels like this, and, you know, topics like Alexander the Great or something, I guess, like and subscribe. So I know, you know, should I do that or do something else, I guess. Check out the reaction today, this is in the decision. Check out the cards for place, and yeah, I'll see you next time.